Hello, I'm Camelia and you're watching KiniNews. Perikatan Nasional wants the government to explain why the coalition's Takbir Raya on TV3 was cancelled. They question if the last-minute cancellation was due to political sabotage.
The government and TV3 have been urged to come clean on the reasons for Perikatan Nasional's Takbir Raya being cancelled at the 11th hour. PN Deputy Secretary General Takiyuddin Hassan said TV3's excuse was odd and unacceptable. TV3 reportedly said they were unable to air the Takbir Raya due to a technical issue and promised a full refund. In a statement today, Takiyuddin added that the government and the TV station should deny that there was any political interference to sabotage the video from being aired. He said the integrity of TV3 and the Communications and Digital Ministry depends on their readiness to be transparent and professional. It was reported that PN had secured a 5-minute slot on TV3 for its Takbir Raya to be aired on the eve of Hari Raya Aidilfitri on Friday. A source at TV3 told Malaysia Kini that PN paid for the slot, which was scheduled for 10:20 p.m. that day. Takiyuddin also expressed PN's disappointment over the incident. He said that it was unprofessional and not supposed to happen, especially when it comes to renowned television stations like TV3.
Still on the topic of Raya, Saifuddin has responded to criticism against the government's Aidilfitri open house with the Prime Minister, which is slated to be held in 6 states.
Home Minister Saifuddin Nasution Ismail said the open house event with the Prime Minister slated to be held in 6 states is not a waste of money. He said it was an effort to celebrate with the people in conjunction with Hari Raya. He added that the provision of foods such as ketupat and lemang, as well as satay at the open houses does not involve excessive costs. Saifuddin also denied that the open houses were election campaign programs. He said they were an approach for Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim to reach out and meet with the people. Saifuddin said this in response to Kedah Menteri Besar Muhammad Sanusi Muhammad Noor, who had criticized the government's decision. Sanusi had said that the open houses were part of programs held in view of the upcoming state elections and should not be organized. He was also quoted as saying that the programs would involve high costs despite the federal government's austerity drive and proposed for it to be held just in Putrajaya as usual.
Sanusi has clarified that he was not involved with a recent pledge of support by students for him during an open house event held at his official residence. According to the Kedah Menteri Besar, the itinerary was planned by the students.
Kedah Menteri Besar Muhammad Sanusi Muhammad Noor has denied being involved in a pledge of support made by a group of students at a recent Hari Raya event held at his residence. He was quoted as saying by Free Malaysia Today that the itinerary was organized by the students and he didn't know that there was going to be an oath-taking ceremony. According to the past lawmaker, he had merely provided the venue and food and was there to respond to questions from the students. He said this in response to criticism that he was practicing double standards since he had labelled the government's open house event as an election campaign for the state elections. The event, which was held at the Menteri Besar's official residence in Kedah, took place on April 17th and was organised by the Kedah state government with the support of Persatuan Mahasiswa Darul Aman and Gabungan Mahasiswa Islam se-Malaysia. During the event, the students were asked by the MC to stand up and pledge their support to Sanusi. Meanwhile, during an hour-long question and answer session, one student had asked Sanusi how they could support the latter to remain as Menteri Besar during the upcoming state elections. To this, Sanusi said if they wanted him to be Menteri Besar, they had to let his party win. He added that it was not a practice within his party to ask for positions and said that he would not request to be reappointed to the position as it was up to party leaders. However, if given the opportunity, he vowed to do his best. During the event, Sanusi had also claimed that Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim's Hari Raya open house celebrations was a form of campaigning ahead of the state elections.
Mohidin filed his statement of defense against Lim Guan Eng's civil suit today. He called on Lim to prove in court that the Finance Ministry did not revoke Al-Bukhari Foundation's tax-exempt status.
Former Prime Minister Mohidin Yasin has expressed his doubt on whether the Finance Ministry or its officers had revoked the tax-exempt status for the Al-Bukhari Foundation. He said this in his statement of defense against former Finance Minister Lim Guan Eng's civil suit. In his defense statement, Mohidin cited the press statement by the Finance Ministry on March 23rd and called for proof. His defense statement was in response to a defamation suit brought by Lim, who claimed that the Pagoh MP had defamed him. This comes after Mohidin had alleged that Lim was responsible for the Al-Bukhari Foundation losing its tax-exempt status. Last month, the Finance Ministry in its statement denied that one of its officers had signed off on revoking the Al-Bukhari Foundation's tax-exempt status. They said the ministry, whether through the previous minister and or its officers, has never revoked the tax exemption given to the Al-Bukhari Foundation. Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim had also said in Parliament that there were no records of the DAP chairperson having revoked the foundation's tax exemption status. To this, Mohidin claimed that the Prime Minister's statements were wholly irrelevant and were only a deflection so that Lim would not be held accountable for the Inland Revenue Board's decision on the issue. Mohidin also explained that he made the inference and conclusion based on a letter he received from Syed Mokhtar Al-Bukhari, who heads the foundation, appealing against IRB's decision to revoke the tax exemption. According to Mohidin, Syed Mokhtar would not have to make such an application had the IRB honored the tax-exempt status, which had been granted to the foundation when the government was led by Perikatan Nasional before the 2014 general election. He added that he is aware that the finance minister has allowed the appeal by the Al-Bukhari Foundation sometime in 2021. With this, he is therefore allowed to draw an inference and conclude that the tax exemption was cancelled, or else there would be no need for approval to be given by the Finance Ministry then.
Dr. Mahathir Mohamad took a trip on the new Sungai Buloh Putrajaya MRT line yesterday. He described the journey as good and said it felt like being in a developed country.
Dr. Mahathir Mohamad rode the new Sungai Buloh Putrajaya MRT yesterday and was left impressed. Mahathir said he and his wife Dr. Siti Hasma Muhammad Ali were accompanied by MRT staff throughout their journey to Putrajaya. He said he felt as if he was in a developed country and it was a good journey. He also pointed out that there were many facilities for riders and the stations were big and equipped with lifts and escalators. Oddly, Mahathir remarked that the MRT project was expensive. During Mahathir's second stint as Prime Minister from 2018 to 2020, one of the priorities of his administration was reducing the cost of the Sungai Buloh Putrajaya MRT line. Eventually, the cost was pared down to 30 billion ringgit from 39 billion ringgit.
Students might be required to wear a face mask when school reopens on May 2nd. This is due to concerns over the new highly transmissible COVID-19 variant known as Arcturus.
The Health Ministry will propose the use of face masks in schools again when they reopen on May 2nd. This is due to concerns over the new highly transmissible COVID-19 variant known as XBB 1.16 or Arcturus. Health Minister Dr. Zaliha Mustafa said she would meet with her education counterpart Fadlina Sidek to discuss the guidelines for preventing a COVID-19 outbreak in schools. She added that a new SOP on COVID-19 will be issued before students return to school on May 2nd. She was quoted as saying by Berita Harian that this is an important preventive measure because they are concerned that there are students who became infected when traveling during the festive season and would spread the virus in school. She said the Education Ministry would make the final decision on the SOP based on her ministry's recommendations. Zaliha also told parents not to be alarmed over the new variant. She said the ministry encourages everyone, including students, to start wearing face masks to curb the spread of COVID-19. On Monday, Zaliha had revealed that 12 cases of the Arcturus variant have been reported in Malaysia, with all patients suffering mild symptoms and in stable condition. However, she said even though Malaysia has detected the XBB 1.16 since March, COVID-19 infections are still under control and does not burden the health services capacity at hospitals and clinics.
And that is all from me today. For more stories, you can go to KiniTV.com. You can also follow us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook for the latest news updates. If you'd like to support independent media, do consider subscribing to MalaysiaKini.com. I'm Kimilia. Thanks for watching.